this is supposed to be Iran's response, or that's why I chose it. I might skip over some of the segments of Donald Trump speaking, because really the only thing I care about is the Iranian response. But we'll see how this video goes. You know, I love a good Fox News clip, though. They're so unhinged. It's hilarious. So I might just watch it just for the fun. But anyway, let's go. Let's see what Iran's. This is breaking. Iran responds to Trump's address as 12,300 plus targets struck. Wow. Okay, this is by Fox News. Let's see what they got to say.
Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Carly Shimkus.
And I'm Todd Pyro. First, let's turn it over to Mike Emanuel in D.C. with the latest on Operation Epic Fury. Mike.
Todd, Carly, good morning.
I can't believe they try to say that like it's cool and not like a, I don't know, like a lame little child. Like it literally sounds like if you were a child and you were playing with your toys and you were making up a military operation for your little army men to do. Like, wouldn't a child call it Operation Epic Fury? Like, right? Am I wrong about that? It's so childish, but okay, let's go.
To you, President Trump signaling to allies and adversaries America's military objectives will likely be complete soon as the United States military continues pounding strategic targets deep inside Iran to further degrade the Iranian regime's ability to project power. U.S. Central Command says more than 12,300 targets have been struck. More than 155 Iranian vessels have been damaged or destroyed.
Dude, you know, okay, like this is a little hint for all of you people out there, all of you Claytriots out there. You know the war is going poorly when they start giving numbers of how many targets they've hit, or numbers of how many boats they've destroyed, or, you know, just like generally if you just see a big number that they're trying to present to you as some sort of like as it's essentially as a replacement for an actual strategic outcome, that's when you know like things are going wrong, because this has happened so many times throughout history. It's like we've hit this many targets, or we've dropped this many pounds of ammunition or whatever, right? These are all just replacements for the fact that they are like strategically achieving absolutely nothing. So anytime you start seeing this, just be on the lookout. You'll know it. You'll see it all the time when you know that this is how they operate. But yeah, that's just like they know that the war is going poorly. This is an attempt to try to make people think that that's not the case.
The Commander-in-Chief speaking to the nation about Operation Epic Fury, live from the White House in prime time.
I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military.
I'm going to skip a lot of these clips, by the way, because I've already watched this, so, or most of it.
Children and your grandchildren's future.
The president also signaling he could end U.S. military operations without reopening the Strait of Hormuz, a critical shipping lane.
The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz they so desperately depend on.
The president says Iran wants a ceasefire, eager to stop the pounding from the U.S. military. A spokesman for Iran's foreign ministry saying, quote, "We will not tolerate this vicious cycle of war, negotiation, ceasefire, and then repeating the same pattern. This is an unjust war that has been imposed on the Iranian people."
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, it is funny that they just list the objective truth. And I'm curious how the Fox News reporters are going to try to spin this, because this has been the cycle that we've been doing. It has been war, then fake negotiations, then a ceasefire, and then repeat. Like, then the West rearms, sends all, like, siphons another, you know, $100,000 out of my wallet for taxes, and then sends all of those missile interceptors, you know, all 10 that we've produced in the past year over to Israel, and then they just start it all up again. So yeah, I mean, this is just an objective truth.
We have no choice but to fight back strongly. Meanwhile, central Israel was hit by one of Iran's largest missile barrages in weeks as Israelis were celebrating Passover. There was some damage to buildings that were hit. Todd, Carly?
All right, Mike Emanuel live for us in Washington. Mike, thank you. Great to see you.
You bet.
Let's bring in retired Navy SEAL and host of the Everyday Warrior podcast, Mike Sorelli. Mike, great to see you.
Oh, God. Everyday Warrior podcast. Jesus, dude. These people. They're just so like, this is just me. This is my personality type, but I think that it just sounds so lame to me. Everyday warrior. God. Okay. Sorry.
See you as well. Thanks for joining us. Another important part of President Trump's speech last night was when he forecast what will happen after that 2 to 3 week time frame if Iran does not make a deal. Listen.
If during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give.
Why not? Why haven't you? I mean, ask yourself that question. Why haven't they hit that? Iran knows why they haven't hit it. It's because it would send the price of oil skyrocketing, to like they said, $200 a barrel if they did that. Because obviously there's the initial repercussion of the amount of oil that could be produced, but also Iran would then retaliate by hitting all the oil facilities around the region as well. And then it could be, it could be decades before they're able to actually produce the same amount of oil that they were before. So yeah, oil prices would go nutty mode if they did that, and that's why they haven't done it yet.
Give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding, but we could hit it and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it.
So
they might not be able to stop that from happening, but the one thing that I think that they keep forgetting to ask is, what would Iran do in response? Because Iran could make the life for the Gulf state countries incredibly difficult. They could hit the desalination plants, which would empty out Riyadh, like the entire city of Riyadh, within a week. People would have to leave. There would be no more water. They could hit, like I said, all the other countries' oil refineries as well, and then they would also be essentially out of a revenue source for years, maybe decades. So the thing that I feel like the Trump administration always forgets to do is think about what could happen in retaliation, because that's how we got into this whole thing, is they didn't think what could happen in retaliation to killing Khamenei or whatever, or starting this war. So
President laying out the consequences there in no uncertain terms. How does this war close out?
Well, Carly, I found that a very interesting speech last night. It was not a mission accomplished. There's more to do on a self-imposed timeline. And we have to do it very fast. I think you just hit it. The largest omission was the Strait of Hormuz and the future security operations of it, which gives him 3 weeks to conduct diplomacy to figure this out. But here are the 4 things that are going to happen over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Let's see. What do we think they're going to be? I don't know. I'm just going to let him describe them, but I'm going to I'm going to guess that the dumbness level, 10 being the dumbest, 1 being the least dumb, I'm going to bet that this guy gives us an 8 out of 10. Dumb. We'll see. Actually, I'll do a 7.5 out of 10 because we got 4 fingers. So I think 4 fingers, one of those fingers is going to be right, is my bet.
1, thin the herd. They're going to continue to strike the regime leadership. 2, boot to the financial jugular. They're going to
Okay, continue. Sorry, I got to go through these one by one. So thin the herd. They're going to continue attacking Iranian leadership. That's dumb. So I'm sorry, that's 1 down. That's dumb because the whole problem that we're finding right now is that there's nobody to negotiate with. So the more leadership you kill, this is kind of why Israel keeps going after their leadership constantly, is to make it so there's nobody to negotiate peace with. So you're forced to essentially be in a war forever, right? So that's dumb. Don't keep thinning the herd. You should, if you are talking to anybody, Donald Trump, you should keep talking to those people to try to come to some sort of diplomatic agreement. Okay, next.
They're going to continue to strike the regime leadership. 2, boot to the financial jugular. They're going to either seize or destroy oil infrastructure.
Again, I already outlined, the reason we're not doing that is because it would the barrel, like the price of oil would go up to like $200 a barrel. And so Americans would be paying $6 to $7 at the pump for gas. Like, so that's why they probably won't do that. I mean, and even if they did, Iran has retaliation, which it seems like this guy also has not thought about. So I'm sorry, but I already explained how that one was dumb. So you know, that one's also dumb. 2 fingers down. You got 2 more chances to get something right.
Turn the lights out. They will hit the energy infrastructure for the people in the regime of Iran. But the fourth is most.
Okay. They will hit that's the one that's most likely that they might actually do. Iran has already said what it will do in retaliation, but like, yeah, they could do that. It wouldn't give any strategic outcome. So I'll give you a half on that one. I'll give you 1/2 on that one. So if you can get another half, then I'll say you passed.
The most important. It is going to be this next wave, a coastal killer, hitting all their offensive capabilities that threaten the Strait of Hormuz.
No, that's super dumb. That's the dumbest one yet. That is ultra mega mecha dumb. That they are. There's no way they could do anything to stop Iran from shooting missiles, like, or shooting drones, really, because it's so close at the Strait of Hormuz. There's nothing they can do whatsoever. So that is 100% not going to happen. So I'm sorry, he got a half out of 4, which, as far as I'm aware, is less than 25%, which is what I would have given him a passing grade. I think that's a 12.5%. I'm sorry, buddy, but I'll go ahead and let him continue.
Important. It is going to be this next wave, a coastal killer, hitting all their offensive capabilities that threaten the Strait of Hormuz. I think ultimately what's going to end up is there will be no formal ceasefire or treaty or agreement whatsoever. And we will find ourselves in security operations for the foreseeable future, like we have since 1949 in the Gulf, doing security operations to secure the Strait of Hormuz, regardless.
It's nothing you can do, man. I'm sorry. Like, there's just nothing you can do. You would have to militarily occupy the entirety of Iran if you wanted to open the Strait of Hormuz. Like, that would be the only way to do it. And you're not going, I don't, if you do that, it's going to be a bloodbath, and you will only be able to open the Strait of Hormuz as long as you have the political will to keep all of your soldiers there constantly dying, which I don't really think Americans have that political will right now. So yeah, that one is mega dumb. He should really move past this as fast as possible so people don't remember that he said it.
Of Trump challenging the allies to step forward.
Mike, it's tough to do security operations with just planes. Read between the lines. Does that mean boots on the ground?
There is a possibility over the next 2 to 3 weeks of limited ground operations, and we've been saying it for weeks. Karg Island is probably the most strategic from their oil infrastructure. However, Keshem, Larak, or Lakar, and Abu Musa or Badr Baras are the most important to the security of the Straits of Hormuz. So if we do go in, it will be limited, and then we will get out, because the biggest risk on those.
See, if you did that, if you only occupied that part, if you didn't occupy the entirety of Iran, what's going to happen is they're just going to be constantly sending drones at you the entire time. Like, as you stay there, as you occupy those islands, right? They may decide to blow up their own oil infrastructure and the oil installations on Karg Island or whatever, because I think it's like a hub for shipping. Like, they might destroy the infrastructure there so that no ships can go through there or whatever in the future. However, they're going to just keep shooting missiles at you. You're going to be sitting ducks, like most of our people in the Middle East are. You're just going to be sitting ducks. And even during that time period, because they're still able to shoot missiles at you, like they will be the entire time that you occupy those islands, they can obviously still shoot missiles at any ships who try to go through the Strait of Hormuz. So that wouldn't accomplish anything. You would need to occupy the entirety of Iran, which would be like 100,000 ground troops at the minimum, like that you would need going over there to do something like that. So, yeah. Now they could like start with those things, and then once we start losing shit ton of troops, be like, we got to finish the job, and like go that whole direction to a full military occupation. But, you know, I don't think we have the political will really for it right now. So who knows?
Offensive operations is actually not the offense taking it, but the defense of holding it, because we put our troops at risk for one-way drones.
Yeah, and when it does come to the Strait, Mike,
I gotta go pee real quick.
The president said the Strait will naturally open up because Iran is going to want to be able to sell oil once this war is over. From a military standpoint, and I hear what you're saying about potentially having to stay there to hold on to the Strait, but do those words signal to you a hands-off approach from a military standpoint and allowing the Strait just to open up once we leave?
I don't think that's a reality, Carly, and here's why. Look at the end of the Gulf War I. For over 10 years, we had to conduct what we call containment and security operations. I believe it was, Northern and Southern Watch that eventually became Desert Fox. I do think we're going to have to maintain a naval presence as well as our aerial assets for containment and security operations of the Strait of Hormuz. That's just the reality we live in.
Mike, did our allies get the message last night that it's their turn to police the Strait of Hormuz? Because, again, it is them, those folks, those nations that actually use the oil that passes through the Strait.
Well, Todd, great question. Here's the promising news that we've heard is that Keir Starmer, Britain, is holding a meeting with NATO allies to discuss the security operations for the Strait.
Oh, such bright news. I talked about this yesterday. They're not going to do shit. Keir Starmer is going to hold a lot of talks, and there's going to be literally no Navy ships that are going to go over there to secure the Strait of Hormuz because we can't do it, so they can't do it. So, yeah, don't buy into any of this bullshit. The EU isn't going to do anything. Keir Starmer isn't going to do anything. They're just going to have talks, and I bet what this is going to turn into is a negotiation with Iran to allow their ships through. That's what I bet is going to happen in the future. All of these countries are going to have to come to the realization that Iran is the regional hegemon, and they are going to have to play by Iran's rules if they want Iran's oil or the Gulf states' oil. Like, Iran has shown that they are able to defeat all of the Gulf allies, that they are able to withstand unlimited pressure from Israel and America, and that they can inflict just like, significant amounts of damage, like economic damage, to all of these countries and Israel as well. So most countries are just going to have to come to that realization that Iran is the regional hegemon now. That's assuming that America can't open up the strait with a full ground occupation. Like, maybe they'll do that, at which point, Iran is essentially just fucked for until America leaves Iran, and then the IRGC immediately takes over again. But
Strait of Hormuz. Ultimately, Trump is right. We get 2% of our oil imports from the Strait. Europe and Asia are most at risk. We're seeing a lot of proactive rhetoric coming out of Japan and South Korea. So they'll step forward because the shock of the oil prices is hitting them the hardest. Again, we go back to the reality of the situation. Europe and Asia have to step forward because they are dependent on the oil coming out of the straits.
And finally,
they don't even acknowledge. It's so crazy that he doesn't even acknowledge how tiny and inconsequential these states' armies are, or navies, I guess, to be particular. They don't even mention it once. It's like they are like what, like 0.1% in terms of spending of our army, of our navy, of our military capacity, of our military industrial complex, our budget. They're nothing. They're a speck of dust compared to us. So if we can't do it, they can't. It's
Mike,
the most obvious thing in the
about
world.
The potential last phase of this war, could be a good time now to talk about the Iranian people and the fact that they were tasked, and I'm sure many of them want to, accomplish the mission of rising up and accomplishing regime change themselves. Are the Iranian people still a factor here?
They are. Carly, this is what I would say is President Trump has set the conditions. It may be weeks, it may be months, it may be years before we see a regime change.
It may be decades, it may be centuries.
But he set the conditions by decapitating the leadership, degrading their military capability. What we were not successful at, and it's a very hard task, was eliminating their internal security apparatus. But if we hit the energy infrastructure, I'm talking about the grid.
I'll give you another little technically Clay hint. If you ever hear someone talking about setting the conditions for success, that means they failed because otherwise they would talk about their successes. If you ever hear anybody ever say that they set the conditions for success, that just means they failed. And I think that all this has done is, if you want to talk about what he's saying right there, all this has done is brought the population more together, become more unified, more, in line with the IRGC hardliners who probably at this point want a nuke. So yeah, I don't know. That's just another little technically Clay hint for all you people out there.
And we continue to degrade the regime's capability. We may see that uprising. We're just not going to see it in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the Israel and U.S. have already hit over 12,000 targets, sunk more than 100.
There it is again, the number that makes people think that we're actually doing something. Look, everybody, number go up, number go up. We're accomplishing something, the number go up, right, everybody? That's how it feels. Okay.